Hey, what's going on YouTube? Sketchy coming at you. The ESL preseason tournament qualifier for Iron Harvest started this last weekend, and you clicked on this video because either A, you hate Rusviet, B, you're curious about the current meta, don't want to do the research yourself, and want to abuse these strats, C, you're a subscriber to the channel, a part of the notification squad, which 90% of viewers aren't, fix it, and you're going to abuse these strats, and D, you just discovered Iron Harvest, you couldn't resist the urge to find out more, and you are probably going to abuse these strats. Well, I'm happy to say that while any or all of these might be true, the meta will shift after a few patch notes, since the Iron Harvest team is gathering data based on the ESL tourney's outcome to fine-tune the game prior and post-release. Personally, I think this tourney is a fantastic idea for that reason alone. However, diving deeper into what the most common builds are, factions, and units picked during the tournament is important to understand, not only to give feedback to the devs, but also remain vigilant on how Iron Harvest is evolving in the multiplayer format. So, let's dive in. 153 people signed up for this tournament and 103 players actually checked in and participated. About 80% or more of them played Rusviet because of Iron Man spam and a cute blonde girl with a cat one-shotting things and blowing them kisses. Unfortunately, Iron Harvest does not currently have a spectator mode yet. However, I tuned into every single game that was streamed on Twitch, reviewed nearly every player and screenshots on the ESL website. I also requested permission from the top 10 players to use their point of view if available for this video. Shoutouts to WellplayedTV, Troy Destin, and Mixu, who all managed to get top 5 and supply me with all the gameplay footage you're about to see. You can find all their links down below. Go ahead and give them a shout, tell them I sent you. Alright, let's get this started. So the winner of the tourney was Jay Danzy, a British player who played all 7 of his games as Rusviet. Same goes for second place, taken by Mixu, and the majority of their games were Rusviet mirror matchups. This also goes for the remaining top 10 players, only 2 of them played Polania, countering the meta as best as they can. Troy Destin, who took 3rd place, played every single game versus Rusviet as Polania, all 6 of them. This should give you a perspective of how many players chose to play them in a 100-player tournament. There were a lot. But why? What is going on with Rusviet? Why are there less Polania in Saxony? Well, this is why. The Rusviet competition that overwhelmed the tourney is a fully loaded Reserve 1 with Olga, a Groza EXO, and 1 Vanguard with a grenade. Let's break down how these units are able to see more victory screens than the others. Olga and the Groza are the only 2 units in Iron Harvest that benefit from a movement utility skill or ability, which many people overlook. Olga being able to ride her Tiger Changa or the Groza using its jump pack ability is a very powerful skill, especially since Iron Harvest is already a slower paced game with slow moving mechs, AT guns, MG emplacements, etc. Essentially, all other factions move in slow motion when compared to these 2 you get it, right? Okay, cool. But that's not really the problem here. Taking a further look into what Olga brings to the table, whether in range or melee, she is able to make base units instantly retreat if she catches one alone due to her high damage output. And she will, because of speed. Also, her detonator ability is absolutely devastating to things like AT guns, mechs, exos, base units, everything, to be honest. Being able to stick to targets makes this a point-and-click unit wipe instead of a skill-based or tactical feature. And last but not least, her camouflage passive is not something that can be countered with any sort of reveal ability, making her extremely difficult to track, and once you do, it's most likely too late to react. Speaking of reacting, imagine 10 exosuits jumping out of you out of nowhere and then beating you to a pulp because they want your lunch money. This is your schoolyard bully in Iron Harvest. The Groza is a pure melee-focused exosuit that favors surprise attacks by jumping into the battle. This jump, if layered with other Grozas doing the same ability to the same target, will 100 to 0 you in seconds, and then you have to deal with the inevitable fisticuffs feeding it experience points, which it thrives on, because once it hits Veteran C1, you can call upon 2 more units, making this a total of 5 exoskeletons Grozas. This is the most any faction has in regards to exos, and the reason why players produce 4 to 5 of them, averaging between 20 to 25 exoskeletons in one single game. So yeah, they are strong. But what about the Vanguards? Vanguards are still very strong, if not the strongest base infantry unit, having the highest melee damage and burst potential with their shotguns. All of this combined doesn't help that Iron Harvest's current design favors Rusviet due to the automatic melee engagement when getting too close to units. Plus, the retreat hotkey lagging when trying your luck against them, not fun. I'm not going to sit here and say that Jay Danzy or Mixu are not good RTS players. If you want to witness the final game and see their micro and skill, link will be in the description below. They are playing at a very high level with a lot of RTS experience from previous games like Command & Conquer, Warcraft, Starcraft, all the crafts essentially. They are good players, and I don't blame them for playing competitive, especially when there's money involved. And I hope many of the things we just talked about gets a round of revisions when it comes to balance. That's what this is ultimately about. Some of you might be asking, okay, but how do you counter this if you see this yourself? I highly suggest taking a look at Troy Destin's games, as he managed to get 3rd place in a sea of Rusviet players, and as I mentioned before, all 6 of his games were versus Rusviet and were with the strategy or meta I just talked about. This was no easy task. The only game he lost was versus Mixu himself. See his games in the description below. However, to summarize Troy's approach to counter, it included a front-loaded reserve 1 with Anna to poke and harass with Wojtek, and MG emplacements to pin the Rusviet flock of Vanguards, and Rycerz exoskeletons to deal melee damage, which is currently bugged, being able to melee from slightly range, and its range attacks to remain distant if needed, or clean up a unit. He also does an amazing job at trying his hardest by placing mines with engineers in strategic locations to intercept incoming Groza. And he switched up his composition once, realizing a tour might help him one-shot some units, but this was only done on the oil spill map successfully, being that it's a bigger map. At the moment, the deserted tracks favors Rusviet since it's a much smaller map, which they can take advantage of with quick reinforce and close combat to run you down, pretty much pushing you into your base and just completely dominating the battlefield and taking all the resources and just, yeah. A follow-up question you might have, what about Saxony? Well, as I mentioned before, the current design favors close combat. Polania being able to slightly outrange Rusviet helps them buy time to micro and react. While Saxony is claiming to be mid-range, it's close enough for them to be considered in melee already. That's a losing battle, even on paper. So that's what this comes down to. The Rusviet army as it stands are the strongest in the game, in 1v1s at least, and are able to dominate the early game so much so that attrition becomes a big issue. Whether we're talking about resources or victory points, it's just too much for any faction to reliably answer to at the moment. And well, that's all I got to report for you. I'm going to leave you with one more question for you guys to answer. Where the hell are all the cool mechs? At the moment, it's impossible to play with mechs due to the cost of teching into them, like the workshop. We love Iron Harvest because of the mechs, and I'll let you guys comment down below. What are your thoughts? Are mechs and reserves 2, maybe 1 enough? Because that seems kind of lackluster. Before I leave you to ponder upon what you're going to say in the comments below, subscribe because all the new patch information will be uploaded here on this channel. And I have a Discord if you want to join that so we can chat. It's free. Go ahead and come on over. Also, a quick shout out to my very first Patreons, Jade, Dermezel, and David. Thank you very much for joining. If you enjoy this kind of content, want to be part of the elite group on my server, and would like to support the channel, I would sincerely appreciate it. Obviously, it's going to upgrade my hardware here and overall just motivate me to be even more productive. So if you want to support it, go ahead and head over there. And that's it for now. I hope this video was somewhat helpful to open up your eyes upon what is going on in the 1v1 multiplayer pro scene, I guess you can say, format. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? That's it for now. Too sketchy out. Peace.